A royal romance for the ages, or a fool's errand ending in catastrophe. When the Malaysian king stepped down from his throne for a Russian beauty queen, it seemed like a real-life fairy tale. But their picture-perfect love story would take a series of shocking turns no one saw coming. How could this fanciful affair between monarch and model go so wrong? From disapproving family drama to explosive scandals, their relationship was besieged at every corner. Thought they found a happily ever after? Think again. Brace yourself as we reveal the jaw-dropping details surrounding the king's unprecedented abdication. By the end, you'll understand why this mesmerizing saga concluded with consequences no one could have predicted. So what shocking twist of fate ultimately tore these star-crossed lovers apart? Watch until the end to find out. Sultan Muhammad V of Malaysia has always lived life on his own terms as the ceremonial monarch of the Southeast Asian nation. Groomed from birth to someday take the throne, his princely path was carved out for him at an early age. But behind the pomp and privilege, who was the man behind the title? Though required to remain apolitical, the Sultan's brief and unexpected reign was not without controversy. Some viewed him as a modern royal, determined to buck outdated traditions. Others saw a leader torn between duty and desire. That desire took shape when he met Russian model Oksana Vojvodina. Their whirlwind romance dominated headlines, raising eyebrows across Malaysia. But the then 31-year-old Sultan seemed enamored by the glamour and beauty of the former Miss Moscow, who was crowned Miss Russia in 2015. Despite tabloid tongues wagging, their affair continued behind palace walls and flourished into a relationship. But could their unlikely union survive public scrutiny? Few expected Muhammad V to abdicate for love, in a move some deemed irresponsible and rash. Yet in January 2019, he became the first sultan in the nation's history to voluntarily resign from his post. The reason? To pursue marriage with Vojvodina against his family's wishes. But sadly, we now know their happily ever after was not meant to be. What pressures and controversies led to the dissolution of their marriage only months later? Watch this video to uncover the full story behind the scandalous royal romance that resulted in unprecedented upheaval. Royal Romance A. Secret Wedding B. Public Reaction in Malaysia. Despite ongoing criticism, the besotted Sultan Muhammad proceeded with his relationship with Oksana Vojvodina out of the public eye. In June 2018, reports emerged that the couple had wed in a hush-hush Muslim ceremony in Malaysia. But the palace did not confirm the union. Such secrecy fueled discontent among the Sultan's subjects, who expected transparency regarding his personal affairs. Many saw the match as an unsuitable mismatch that defied tradition. Backlash intensified when news broke that Oksana was expecting. Some conservative factions characterized the pregnant beauty queen as an unfit royal partner, but the Sultan ignored detractors and continued doting on his new bride. In November 2018, Oksana gave birth to their son, Ismail Leon. Yet even the arrival of a baby boy and heir did little to win over disapproving Malaysians. Public antipathy likely contributed to the Sultan's shocking decision to abdicate just 2 months later. In an historic first, he resigned from his kingship to be with Oksana, but he bargained away his crown without considering the consequences. Stripped of his title and privileges, Muhammad V discovered life as a private citizen would test his relationship in ways he never expected. Few would continue supporting his unconventional choices outside the palace walls. In the end, the controversies, gossip, and lack of regal standing sabotaged the royal fairy tale romance he sacrificed everything for. The strains would soon shatter his marriage to Oksana. Abdication. A. Historic abdication of the throne. B. Public and family reaction. In January 2019, Sultan Muhammad V became the first king in Malaysian history to voluntarily abdicate his throne. His unprecedented decision stunned the nation. In a statement, the palace announced the monarch was stepping down after serving just 2 years of his 5-year term. He cited only personal reasons for giving up the apex role, but it was an open secret the Sultan abandoned his duties for marriage to Oksana Vojvodina. The controversial union had dogged his reign from the outset. By relinquishing his title for love, the ex-ruler hoped to live freely with his Russian bride and infant son. However, his departure upended order in Malaysia's unique rotational monarchy. Public reaction ranged from sympathy to outrage over what many perceived as a dereliction of obligation. Critics characterized the move as an unforgivable betrayal, tossing the nation into political chaos. Family sentiment was equally critical. The Sultan's elder relatives in the royal household expressed disappointment with his unilateral choice. Some saw Oksana as an undeserving outsider who manipulated the naive monarch into a disastrous decision. Others worried the high-profile abdication damaged the dynasty's dignity and reputation. Yet Sultan Muhammad V remained resolute, believing he could finally enjoy domestic bliss and privacy after years under the microscope. Initially, his contentment with Oksana seemed to prove he made the right decision. But soon the challenges of life post-palace began straining the relationship he sacrificed everything for. Being stripped of status, wealth, and privilege placed new pressures on the couple to provide stability for themselves and baby Leon as commoners. However, the controversies over their troubled union didn't disappear just because the Sultan was no longer king. His exit from power, if anything, heightened the tensions. Arrival of baby. In November 2018, Oksana Vojvodina gave birth to a baby boy named Tengku Ismail Leon Petra bin Tengku Muhammad Faris Petra. For the besotted Sultan, the arrival of their first child should have been a joyous milestone. After abdicating his throne to marry Oksana, having an heir affirmed hope for a new life together as a family. Yet from conception, the infant was shrouded in controversy over his legitimacy. Many in Malaysia felt Oksana deliberately got pregnant to force the Sultan into marriage. Others speculated if he was the biological father at all, given the timeline of their relationship. Still more deemed the baby undeserving of succession rights due to Oksana's status as an unwed mother at conception. The swirling rumors deeply wounded the protective father, who doted on his newborn son regardless of his unconventional origins. But the Sultan's relatives were less accepting. Some scorned the child as illegitimate, refusing to acknowledge him as family. The custody of little Leon emerged early on as a contentious matter. Oksana tried tuning out the hostility and vicious gossip, focusing her energy on being a nurturing mother. However, brand new storms soon overshadowed the joy of parenting. By early 2019, her fairy tale marriage was crumbling. Being stripped of his kingship meant Sultan Muhammad V could no longer support his wife in the lavish luxury she grew accustomed to. Their more modest lifestyle as private citizens led to bitter arguments over money and the future. What truly tore them apart were the ongoing disputes over Leon's paternity. As their relationship deteriorated, Oksana found herself increasingly shut out, while the Sultan's family gained greater access to her son. Forbidden from even holding her own baby, Oksana's heart shattered over fears that Leon would forget his mother. Emotionally ravaged, she began speaking out to media, providing evidence that the Sultan first pursued her, not the other way around. She insisted on accurate details of their affair to counter malicious claims and show Muhammad V breached religious laws, first by secretly courting an unmarried woman. Yet her public appeals only widened the rift. By mid-2019, the royal couple's marriage was beyond repair. Despite sacrificing his throne and country for love, the Sultan initiated divorce proceedings just months after their splashy wedding. Entitlement, jealousy, and mistrust on both sides ruined the impulsive romance. Their split threw Leon's future into uncertainty as custody arguments continued simmering. For Oksana, the dream of having a family was devastated by royal resentment, lies, and isolation. Losing her husband was painful enough, but the thought of also losing her infant son was unbearable. All she ever wanted was to feel like she and Leon belonged. Instead, the adorable child born out of love became collateral damage in the wake of a failed relationship that was difficult from the start. Divorce and aftermath. By June 2019, after just 1 year of marriage, divorce proceedings had officially commenced between the former Malaysian king and Oksana Vojvodina. Defeated, Oksana relinquished, contesting the split to accelerate a settlement. She hoped cooperation would enable shared custody of their infant son, Leon. But negotiations with the powerful royal family only further alienated her. The divorce was finalized swiftly, with Oksana accepting a meager payout. She was barred from discussing details publicly and forced to retract earlier accusations about the Sultan. Most heartbreakingly, she lost her battle for Leon. The baby remained in Malaysia under the care of relatives who considered Oksana an unfit mother. For Sultan Muhammad V, it was a hollow victory. Remorse over the destruction his careless decisions had caused began to creep in the months after he divorced Oksana. He still longed for a family life, but his first failed marriage left only damage behind. The former monarch mourned the child lost to him, a son he could not claim or watch grow. Life in exile from the palace also proved far lonelier than expected. Estranged from his family and stripped of status, Muhammad V found himself rudderless and withdrawn, haunted by the collapse of his royal fairy tale. Seeking purpose, the ex-king made plans to take a new wife, though one deemed suitable for a man of his standing. But would this calculated union finally bring the happiness and redemption he yearned for? Or was he trying to reclaim a hollow version of the life he discarded? Thousands of miles away, Oksana picked up the pieces of her shattered dreams. She no longer experienced the opulent lifestyle she had as a princess. Instead, she now lives in obscurity and worries about the debts incurred from her extravagant wedding. But her deepest fears centered on the welfare of the baby boy she still thought of as hers. Though just a toddler, little Leon faced immense pressure as the exiled son of a former monarch embroiled in turmoil. Without the motherly love and nurturing Oksana couldn't provide from afar, what future awaited the innocent child? Would he suffer for the mistakes of his parents? Grow up bouncing between resentful relatives? Or someday come looking to reconnect with the mother stripped from his life so early on? For Oksana, the grief of losing Leon mingled with pride at having brought him into the world at all. He represented the passionate love she briefly found and the brutal lesson she learned about reaching beyond her reality. Oksana's all-consuming regret was that their mother-son bond ruptured before it ever had a chance to blossom. In very different worlds, two people linked forever by a child pondered the high price paid for daring to defy conventions. For Muhammad V, the quest to have it all cost him stature and family. For Oksana, fantasy turned swiftly into misfortune once the palace gates slammed shut. Somewhere in between rested baby Leon, the bittersweet remains of an impetuous romance for which he would pay the heaviest price. Oksana Vojvodina's life post-divorce. Following her divorce from Sultan Muhammad V, Oksana Vojvodina has faced a life filled with public scrutiny and controversies, particularly regarding the paternity of her son. She took measures to protect her child by going into hiding for a period. Despite the challenges, she has maintained a public stance on her son's paternity, sharing photos on social media to assert Sultan Muhammad V's fatherhood. Her life post-divorce seems to be a blend of personal struggles intertwined with public and legal battles to establish the truth and secure a stable future for her son. Sultan Muhammad V's life as the Sultan of Kelantan. After abdicating the Malaysian throne, Sultan Muhammad V continues to hold his title as the Sultan of Kelantan. His life post-abdication and divorce reflects a return to traditional royal duties and responsibilities. There are reports of him expressing regret over his past decisions and planning to remarry, this time to a person deemed more suitable by his family. His actions post-divorce signify a shift towards realigning with the expectations and traditions associated with his royal standing, thus working towards restoring his image and position within the royal and public spheres. The story of Sultan Muhammad V and Oksana Vojvodina unfolds as a modern-day royal drama, reflecting the clash between personal desires and traditional royal obligations. Their story is a stark portrayal of the challenges and sacrifices entailed in royal relationships, especially when entangled with international and cultural dynamics. The saga underscores the enduring tension between age-old royal traditions and modern-day love relationships. It raises questions about the extent to which royalty can pursue personal happiness against the backdrop of stringent traditional expectations, thus igniting a discourse on the evolving nature of royal duties and personal freedoms in contemporary society.